Hey everyone, we're going to look at governors today. When you look at governors, they are quite similar to how we would expect our executive to be in relation to, let's say, what the president does. Every governor has what we would call formal powers that you find in their state constitutions or state statutes, and informal powers stemming from their own personal strengths, or sometimes, like I call them, the head cheerleader in charge. Everybody seems to be, when they run for governor, that they want the job. It's something that they really work for. It's sort of like I said, when you run for president, something that you try to attain. It's not just something that falls on your lap. After all, you are going to run the state. You are going to be the constitutional leader of the state, but also you're going to be the figurehead leader as well. And as you can see, there are many roles that a governor plays in their state, no matter if they're Democrat or Republican. As a chief administrator, the governor is the overseer of the state's bureaucracy. They have to make sure that the financial structure of the state is up and running and is in the black and not in the red. And even though we have a legislative branch, we do see our governor as a chief legislator. After all, he or she is the person who initiates the major programs that we find within a state. And also remember, the buck stops with the governor, as they can veto any part of legislation that comes to their desk. And sometimes I refer to the governor as the head cheerleader in charge. This is when the governor takes the role as a ceremonial position and uses it to basically promote the state and promote all the good that's going on. It's a public service that the governor is involved in. So they try to utilize that public service by making themselves available to the public, and they try to keep in the public spotlight. And whenever there is a problem within the state, we always look to our governors to make sure that they know what they're doing. We turn to them for direction, whether it be for a natural disaster, something that involves civil disorder, or in other situations where the National Guard has to be called in. Governors come from a variety of backgrounds. However, most of them tend to be more from the law side rather than from the acting or country music singing side. And you'll see here how many governors have become president. The last one being George W. Bush, the first one being Thomas Jefferson. When people run for governor, it looks like they take on the traits of running for president. There's lots of money that's involved in the political process. There's no difference between how much money you see. I guess you could say the amount, but you do see lots of money on the gubernatorial side as well as on the presidential side. So there's really no difference on the money that's being spent. In terms of the governor's priorities, you see here from this pie chart dating back maybe a few years now that Medicaid and pensions are at the top of the list. When it says executive power in state government and talks about the formal powers of the governor, we're really talking about the institutional powers that you find in the Constitution of that state. So the more formal powers that a governor has, which is found in their constitution, the stronger that governor is going to be. And no matter the state, there's always room for reforms. And here are the examples of the states that have the most institutional powers and the least institutional powers. And here are the states that elect the members to the executive branch, from governor all the way down to the National Guard leader and chief financial officer of a state. You find in any state, you'll find political opposition to reforming because everybody has a stake in how the government is working. You also have governors that need to prepare state budgets, so there's also some fiscal powers that are involved, executive orders that the governors need to in order to change the way things work in their government. Really, it's very difficult to reform, so states are slow to reform and change. The public wants more change at the state level than actually does take place, whether it's Illinois, Maryland, New Jersey, California, and everybody in between. Power in the states is entrenched. And as I mentioned before, the governor wants their ideas to become law, so they will push their ideas onto the legislature with the hope that their idea becomes official policy. And just like we have at the federal level, states may also have divided government, which means that a government has one party in control of the governor's office while another party controls one or both houses of the legislature. In Illinois, that's not happening, but in Illinois, that did happen before J.B. Pritzker became governor, as you had Republican Bruce Rauner as governor and a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate. Not every state has a recall. Every state can try to impeach a governor if they chose to. It doesn't happen very often. And then finally, these are some of the other executive offices that you will find in many states.